Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerizing. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Proud Nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. We got a good show for you all today. We are, of course, going to talk about more of the stimulus deal. Of course, look, we need something. We need a stimulus. We need it before, like, we fall off the cliff. So I'm going to be talking about how the stimulus that we are going to get, how Democrats have already folded to basically Republican demands. Really, really sad. So we're gonna, sound is not good. Am I muffled now? Working on it. We are working on this stuff. All right. So anyway, working on it. I know it's bad. Again, we're working on it here. Okay. So anyway, we're going to also talk about a incoherent rant that we have seen in Michigan about voter fraud. And then we have Republicans actually doing voter fraud. We also have William Barr. We've got Ivanka Trump. That stuff is fun. So we're going to get right into that. So we're doing it. All right. Moving on here, let's get to the first story. We're doing it live, you know. We're doing some live audio stuff. So testing. Okay. Start with Republicans. Democrats have already folded to the Republicans on a stimulus deal. So right now, we are at a crisis level on when it comes to economic conditions caused by the coronavirus. It's actually been more than 8 months since the last major COVID-19 relief package was passed. That's the CARES Act, of course. And it was, I mean, so that actually contained about $1,200. One stimulus check, and some temporary unemployment benefits, as well as some money for the states. In that time, of course, we've had an election, several different recounts, as well as some pretty grim milestones. For example, we have hit about 250,000 deaths. Over, of course, 10 million, about 13 million people have actually contracted coronavirus. It's really bad. And it's only getting worse. So now you also had a surge in eviction cases going to court, unemployment claims, and also the need for food banks. So we are in a dire situation right now, both in terms of healthcare and health, and of course in terms of the economy. Even major economists are saying that we need to go big with stimulus. So What are we going to do? Apparently nothing. Mitch McConnell in the Senate had actually been sitting on a COVID relief package since May. That's when, of course, the Democrats passed the HEROES Act. Since then, the Democrats have offered two different compromise bills. The latest being, of course, $1.8 trillion bill, which included less money for expanded unemployment, less money for the states and other things. And then, of course, that was not actually draconian enough for Mitch McConnell. In fact, the $908 billion is actually the latest to come from a bipartisan group of senators. And of course, you had $1.8 trillion from the Democrats. And so, speaking about that $908 billion proposal that is supposed to be a compromise proposal, but it's just disastrous. It's just a terrible piece of legislation. I talked about that. Asked about this, by the way, here's what McConnell said. Quote, we just don't have time to waste. Oh, really? We have a couple of weeks left here. Obviously, it does require bipartisan support to get through Congress, but it requires a presidential signature. Well, at least he's right about that part. But I challenge the whole, we don't have time. Really? Democrats have been pushing for a coronavirus stimulus since May. Even Donald Trump, and I understand that he was only doing this to try to win an election, but he said he'd sign a $1.8 trillion deal with Pelosi. So obviously, I mean, again, I don't know if he would sign this. I think he's, too busy, basically trying to fight the results of the election. But so I don't even know if he'd sign anything at this point. But look, that said, what did McConnell do during the time where we could have actually got a $1.8 trillion stimulus deal? That's, of course, if the Democrats had accepted that. Well, he took at least 3 Senate vacations. 3. No. Screw you guys. The only thing that Mitch McConnell has done is put forward a $500 billion skinny bill, which had basically nothing for workers, no stimulus checks, and is chock full of corporate welfare. And that's it. Mitch McConnell is a ghoul. He is the worst of the worst. Now, that doesn't mean the Democrats are better. As I said before, as I opened the story, they already have bailed. And so they already are now agreeing with the Republicans. And by the way, let me get to some strong statements from Democrats. First, Senator Tina Smith. She said that his comments were, quote, classic Mitch McConnell. Oh, okay. Here's what she said. Nobody knows more about wasting time than McConnell. Quote, he had the Senate do nothing on COVID relief in November, nothing in October, September, August. It's painful how long this is going on. He refuses to negotiate with Democrats, and he wants to talk about wasting time? I've never seen a place like Mitch McConnell's United States Senate. It's like he owns it. If he doesn't like something, it's a waste of time, and that's the end of it. Well, she's absolutely right. But here's the thing. Mitch McConnell does it because he always wins. He always gets his way anyway. Again, the Democrats are now looking to pass a $908 billion stimulus bill. And so, I mean, that's it. That's it. Now, that's the one, of course, with the corporate liability shield and no stimulus checks for workers, $300 for people who are unemployed. It's actually a worse deal than that $1.8 trillion deal that Pelosi had refused to take up months ago. In fact, here's Senator Dick Durbin saying, no, this is a great bill. Take a look.
They've come up with a $908 billion plan. It's a good one. There are some aspects of it that cause some questions in my mind about liability, but beyond that, I can tell you the dollars are well spent in this plan. But Senator Mitch McConnell will not accept this.
Are you ready to work out a compromise from your perspective and accept some sort of middle-of-the-road deal, at least to help some of these people get through Christmas and beyond?
Well, that's exactly what we did. You know, here is Mitch McConnell with his $500 billion. Here are the Democrats with $1.5 or $2.2 trillion. And we came in with a plan for $908 billion. And it was crafted by Democrats and Republicans after a long weeks and hours of deliberation. This is a middle ground. This is a compromise. It's a good bill.
No, it's not. It's a terrible bill. But no, I love how the assumption is. And you know, Wolf Blitzer is like, are you going to compromise with the Republicans? That's not a compromise. It's a cave. That's what this is. It's an absolute cave. And so this is an awful bill. And yet, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, they're all saying, okay, yeah, we'll take the awful deal. Really? They call it a good bipartisan bill. And here's, again, let's see. This is, I believe, Chuck Schumer. I'm not sure who's quoting this, actually. Oh, they're all quote. All the Democratic leaders got together, and they put out this statement. While we made a new offer to Leader McConnell on Monday in the spirit of compromise, we believe the bipartisan framework introduced by senators yesterday, the $908 billion bill, should be used as a basis for immediate bipartisan bicameral negotiations. Of course, we and others will offer improvements, but the need to act is immediate, and we believe that with good faith negotiations, we could come to an agreement. Well, see, that's the problem. Mitch McConnell does not act in good faith. He just doesn't. This deal and McConnell's offer are both a slap in the face to the 20 million people who are unemployed right now, and the millions more who can't afford their rent, their utilities, or anything like that. And the thing is, again, the Democrats said, we'll take the deal, we'll take the deal. And McConnell is already saying, no, $908 billion, too much. It's too much. See, that means they're probably going to go, and this is what happens all the time. So the Republicans, they go and they just do these ridiculously terrible pieces of legislation, right? And that's what they put forward constantly, over and over and over again, okay? And the Democrats, they're like, oh, we must be bipartisan. We must be bipartisan. What can we do? We have to be bipartisan. I mean, we don't have control of the Senate, so because we put up terrible Democratic candidates. But, oh, man, you know, we got to go towards the Republicans. We got to go towards the Republicans. And the media feeds into that. Wolf Blitzer, again, feeding into that, saying, are you going to compromise with McConnell? Why are you not compromising with McConnell? McConnell has put out a very good piece of legislation. Why are you not compromising with Mitch McConnell? It's constant. It's terrible pieces of legislation. But that's what we get. And so McConnell's going to take, McConnell will get what he wants in the end, because that's what always happens. He has rope-a-dope the Democrats into a terrible position. And again, he knows it. He knows it. He's got all the power, and Democratic leadership refused to call it what it is. And it's the Democrats who will end up taking the fall when things don't get better in the economy, because whether it passes or doesn't, it's still going to be a disaster, because nothing that is presented comes close to being even close enough. And that's exactly what Mitch McConnell wants. He wants the economy to fail, so then later on, he can blame the crisis on the Democrats. He is not a good person. He is an evil person. And damn the Democrats for not running somebody who can actually defeat Mitch McConnell. And damn the Democrats for always caving, or caving when it comes to Republicans. It sucks. Okay. Anyway, apparently I've had enough complaints about my sound, so I'm gonna switch back to the old one. Man, it sounded good when I did the tests. So I don't know. It sounded fine when I did the test. So I'll have to just go back to not being hands-free, which sucks. But all right. Anyway, we'll be back after this break. Around the nation.
Give me a break.
I have not loved this conversation.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation. I just can't seem to get those work to work. Okay. So let's go to the next story here. That doesn't work, Sarge. Maybe I'll look into a shore, but you know, we'll figure that out later on. Apparently, this industry standard is just superior to everything, which is good to have. It's good to have something that works so great, but and again, I can't use anything else. All right. Anyway, so let's move on here. Have any super chats here that just come in? Yes. Let's see. Get to those. Okay, that's weird. All right, hold on for a second. I have to pull this up because apparently what I was doing before didn't work. It's just one of those days today. It is definitely one of those days. So let's get to that. Because I do want to read those super chats because I do appreciate it. Let's see. It's taking a while. Zach Sherman says, who would have guessed the Democrats would screw over their voters again? Yeah, I know, right? And it's just, they don't even, the problem isn't that they're screwing them over necessarily. It's that they're so weak and feckless. It just doesn't make any sense. All right. Now let's get to that. Adrian Benefield says, yay, Yar, beware of the slurry monster in turtle form. And Star Trek with the good, let's see, the good super chat here. America first for coronavirus. Trump couldn't care less. It is what it is. But for the vaccine, United Kingdom first. Sad. So there you go. All right. Let's move on. The clown coup continues in Michigan as Rudy Giuliani and his crack team of misfit lawyers try to overturn the election in court. Video of one of the witnesses' testimony in the election fraud hearing in the state has gone viral, and I want to show you this wonderful train wreck. Take a look.
They've come up with a $908 billion plan. It's a good one.
The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000. That poll book, why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So my question then is if the
Guess how many? Wait, what about the turnout rate? 120%.
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, please.
So the option number one is that the poll book numbers are not going to match.
They don't.
The actual. Not by thousands and thousands of votes. That's not what we see right now.
Take a look again. Take a look again.
Option number two is that they essentially were filling in names of people who didn't vote.
Dead people too?
So is that?
Let's
I guess,
let
is that
Representative Johnson ask his question, and then when
I
he's
thought that
done.
was his answer. Okay.
Well, I guess that's my question here is why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes. That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I
saying
saw.
that they're filling in?
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Okay. Did you?
Did you? Clown show. And you saw that earlier. I know you all saw that. Where Rudy Giuliani's kind of tapping on the table a little bit and he's like, shh. Like, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. She did it anyway. He looked a little uncomfortable. Oh my God. The guy who, by the way, the guy who was asking questions, he was a Republican. And so there's the allegation or the insinuation that he's part of that Republican group that somehow, for some reason, cooked the books to make sure that Joe Biden wins the election. That doesn't make any sense. That was like super cringe. And by the way, she was incredibly smug. Okay. And I think a lot of people are wondering, because I've seen a lot of comments about this, if she had any liquid courage before this hearing. I mean, again, she does hang out with, apparently was hanging out with Rudy Giuliani. He's a known drunk. But anyway, speaking of the response, I love some of these tweets. Okay. So now, this one says, oh, but she's done her homework. She's done all her research, and she's backing it up with absolutely nothing, which is what you do, isn't it? Fun. Another person says, I think she backed it up with gin and tonic. Oh. Look, she did seem kind of blitzed. Another person adds, this woman obviously does not understand how ballots work. Each ballot has a unique ballot tracking number, which is a barcode, which is a mechanism to avoid duplicate counting, to which, of course, she is claiming. You can scan the same ballot 1,000,000 times, and the count would still result to 1. And not only that, but, of course, hand recounts and audits, which we've had in Michigan, disprove her claims that they just ran the same ballots over through multiple times in order to drive up the numbers. Again, there's absolutely no evidence to back up their claims. An affidavit, by the way, she says, oh, I signed something that says that, I could go to jail if I sign it. Well, that's an affidavit, right? Now, the affidavit, it isn't also evidence. It just says, hey, this is what I said. This is what I said that I saw, and I will assert that I believe that I saw what I saw. That's not actual evidence that can be presented. It's just saying that you believe what you said. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. And so that said, this is not the only insanity to have come out of this hearing. In fact, I've got one more video here. Take a look.
I think all Chinese look alike. So how would you tell? If some Chow shows up, you can be anybody and you can vote. And if somebody with my name, you can't even tell my name. Anybody can vote on my behalf. So ID should be the basic requirement.
No, that's not how that works. And that's where it got racist. Wow. Here's the thing. Like, we know from facts, okay, because, again, she claims that anybody could vote under her name, and nobody would know, except that people would know, because we have systems that are set up to prevent that from happening. Okay. And so cases of voter fraud in the United States are incredibly rare. Again, the odds are better for you to witness somebody being struck by lightning or being crushed by a candy machine than to see someone do in-person voter fraud. Those are just the facts. Again, every single investigation into voter fraud has found no evidence that it exists in a widespread manner. It just doesn't. These hearings are just an absolute clown show. Of course, with every clown show, I mean, Rudy Giuliani appears to be the ringleader of this parade of morons. Sad. Okay. Speaking of voter fraud, we actually do have some, though. I said it was rare, but now we have actual voter fraud. You're going to love this. All right. A Florida Republican was caught on tape outlining a plan to do mass voter fraud. And of course, he encouraged other Republicans to do it. This is awesome. So now, this is attorney Bill Price. Now, he decided he would broadcast his intentions to do voter fraud on Facebook Live, which, of course, the video, I would love to show it to you, but it has been since deleted, which is sad because I really wanted to watch that. Nonetheless, he described a plan to commit voter fraud to Bay County Republican Party members back on November 7th. This is according to a report by WSB-TV. Now, Price told a crowd of Republicans that he was going to move to his brothers in Georgia to register to vote in the January 5th election that, of course, determines control of the Senate. So now he's saying, this is my brother's address. I'm going to go to this address. And I urge you also to go and register at that address so that you can also do voter fraud with me. And so in response to that, one woman in the audience apparently asked, wait, we can truly register at that address? His response is, sure. But it also suggests having mail sent to that address to show that you did move to the state. And another woman had asked, and it can be anywhere in the state of Georgia, you can register, right? So if you've got cousins, dogs, cats that live somewhere else, it doesn't need to be one particular county. So they're also asking, oh, so not only can I go there and say that I've moved to Georgia so I can do voter fraud, but I'm going to pretend that my cats and my pets, all of these things, that they can also vote. So we can all do voter fraud together. These are Republicans. And of course, the response to that by Price says, yep, this is going to be a statewide election on January 5th. I'm going to be voting for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. And added, we have to win that election in Georgia. So I'm moving to my brother's house in Hiram, Georgia, and I'm registering to vote. And we're going to win that election in January. That's what needs to be done. If you don't want to do it, fine. Might as well move to Venezuela now. Get used to that lifestyle because that's what's coming. And so, again, he's telling his people to do voter fraud right out in the open, right on video. The dumbest thing. And it's the dumbest thing. And of course, now he gets caught because, of course, he gets caught. And so what does he say? Price told WSB-TV, it's a CBS affiliate, by the way, in that area, that his comments in the meeting were a joke. Oh, yeah, that was, of course it was a joke, right? And he insisted that he hadn't actually gone through with the actions that he had described. Quote, I did not change my voter suppression or my voter registration, and I don't have 2 million roommates. But if my humorous comments bring attention to the massive and widespread voter fraud in Georgia that you were encouraging, I would submit to you that it's a good thing. But that's not what happened. In fact, WSB-TV confirmed that Price had registered to vote on November 8th using his brother's address and swearing to an affidavit. Remember those things that are not evidence of doing something wrong? But he said, tighten up my meat. Hey, I'm going to go and swear that I am a Georgia resident and that I am eligible to vote. He's saying that. Whoops. Oh, no. See, here's the thing. This guy does voter fraud, but he's too stupid to actually get it done, to have it actually work. And this is why voter fraud doesn't happen on a mass scale. Because if it did, we would, for one, know, and for two, because we have systems in place that stop this. For two, the people that usually do voter fraud are too dumb to actually do it correctly. I mean, again, Georgia's Deputy Secretary of State, Jordan Fuchs, confirmed on Wednesday that Price was under investigation for fraudulent voter registration, which is, of course, a felony charge. He said this, quote, "This isn't California. We actually investigate and seek to prosecute individuals who try to vote here illegally. Our system is built to prevent this behavior. We will seek to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law." Why the shot at California? It's a needless jab, right? They don't allow voter fraud either. It's just there are more Democrats that live there. So why would you need to do voter fraud if you have more people on your side? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. But of course, they always, since they're all Republicans there, they've got to make a jab at California. Great, wonderful. But look, this voter fraud, this fake voter registration can carry up to a 10-year prison sentence and a $100,000 fine. Now, Deidre Holden, that is the Paulding's county election supervisor, who's a Republican, her office actually flagged the registration because he's not an actual, again, resident of the state. And so her office was going to write to Price and say, and basically ask him to bring in his driver's license in order to cure it, right? So that you can do that. You can go and have the ability to come in and cure your ballot and prove you are, who you say you are, that you had actually moved and correct this, right? So now that was canceled after that office had been contacted by state elections investigators who also had seen his registration address, but had also seen that Facebook Live video. And they decided to share that video with Paulding's election supervisor. Her response to it was, quote, "What kind of messages is sending out to our children and our grandchildren and our neighbors that if you don't win an election, that you can just go out and steal one?" Well, look, that's what Republicans have been trying to do. Okay? She adds, that's absolutely unacceptable here in the state of Georgia. Well, it's unacceptable everywhere. We don't want people stealing an election. And guess what? Unfortunately, that's what the president of the United States is trying to do right now. Projection. This is one of the guys. It's one of the people that believes that it's just a bunch of Democrats that are going out there and doing voter fraud. When, ironically, he is the one who is doing the voter fraud. And again, here's the thing. A lot of Republicans believe this because when more people turn out, Republicans lose. And they can't understand, like, I don't know, it did not compute. Why is it then when more people turn out, we lose? It's because you're not a majority of the country. Despite the evidence, right, that Republicans like to present of like, oh, the country is right-wing because we're in control, yeah. Now Donald Trump won by losing 3 million votes. But no, the evidence shows actually that Americans are a lot of Americans are left-leaning on issues, even if they don't necessarily, align or call themselves Democrats. But they believe in things like universal health care. Bernie Sanders, got a room full of Trump-loving Republicans to cheer for Medicare for all. And, of course, the majority of Americans believe in the Green New Deal. Majority of Americans support cannabis legalization. That's a progressive position. They support fighting, against climate change, taxing the rich, in favor of common sense gun regulation, even in favor of racial issues. Look, people overwhelmingly supported justice for George Floyd. And yet, the extreme right lives in a completely different reality. Fox News lives in a different reality. And so it's alternative facts. And again, reinforced by conservative media, Newsmax, OAN, Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, this right-wing radio, Sinclair Media. And ironically, the majority of voter fraud that does happen is done by Republicans because they know they're a minority. They're not in the majority. And look, the only reason they have an outsized influence in Congress is as a result of our broken electoral system, where you have people in rural Kentucky, for example, that have more representation in the Senate specifically than people in LA or New York, in more populous states. Their votes are worth literally several times more than people in California. And so these massive population centers, again, Seattle, New York, LA, very liberal, right? Or at least have very liberal people that live there. They get, the same amount of representation as the tiniest little town in the middle of Iowa. That's why the country is held hostage by people like Mitch McConnell. And again, it's because they're in a minority, right? They're desperate to stay in power. So they do voter suppression, of course. gerrymandering, and now in some cases, when that stuff doesn't work, well, massive voter fraud, while also being complete hypocrites on voter fraud. Now, there's one more thing that I found pretty hilarious, right? So now Carr went to go and talk to Price's brother about this because it was his address that was being used. And so they had decided to go and talk to him. So now he had been contacted by state investigators, but had not seen that Facebook Live video. So now on that, though, here's Frederick Price. He says this: the whole thing was just tongue in cheek. There's nothing there. Well, now Carr responded by saying, well, look, some of it was tongue in cheek. I can agree with that. But the other was a set of specific instructions for them to go and register and use your address in order to do voter fraud. Price answered, no. Just no. To which she responded, but it wasn't all a joke. It was real. This happened. Price responded by saying, okay, but no. Wow. To which, of course, she responded by ending the conversation by saying, okay, thank you, sir. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? I mean, seriously. Like, nope. No, that's not what happened. Nope. Even though you have clear documented evidence that that's exactly what happened, I say no. Republicans, man. Holy shit. Insane. Bonkers. All right. I want to read some super chats here before I get to the next couple stories that we have left. Oh, you want to see the Alex Jones? Here we go.
I will eat your ass.
I'm guessing that's what you wanted to hear. Let's see. And then RB Empathy with the very kind $10 saying long-time lurker. Thank you for the continued efforts of championing progressive values. Well, thank you. Also for laughing with me at appalling liberal and conservative shenanigans. That's what we do here. We laugh at the shenanigans. Thank you so much for your support, by the way. It does mean a lot. I do appreciate it. All right. Moving on. Let's do it. Let's go to William Barr. Looking here through my notes. Yeah, the denial here is just, it's super strong. Super strong. Amazing. Amazing. Whoops.
Amazing.
Okay. There's a little bit of drama at the White House. Now, William Barr has so far refused to back up Donald Trump's clown coup, which, of course, basically is him trying to allege massive amounts of voter fraud. And despite the fact that there is absolutely no evidence in order to back up his claims of voter fraud. So now, earlier this week, in fact, the Justice Department, William Barr himself, revealed that they had uncovered no evidence of voter fraud in this election. The result of that, of course, is that you made the baby mad. He is not happy about this. In fact, the Washington Post reports that Trump is livid at Barr for not doing enough to help him remain in power, and could even fire him despite having left less than 2 months in office. One senior administration official said that there was a chance Trump would fire his attorney general and asserted that the president was not merely frustrated over Barr's fraud-related assertions. So basically, simply put, Donald Trump's in meltdown, okay? Because he did not get his way, because William Barr will not back him up. In fact, Trump went on an unhinged rant for 46 straight minutes. Now, I'm going to show you that, and this is, by the way, this is posted right on his Twitter account. It's pinned right to the top of the page, and I want to show you some of that just to show you kind of the meltdown, how it looks.
I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. For months leading up to the presidential election, we were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results. My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign. We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be. They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange.
He is right, though, about one thing. Our electoral process is under assault. It's just he's the one who's assaulting it. I mean, come on. So unhinged. Okay, but back to the report here, right? So now that same official says that now, since there's, some very big tension at the White House, now several people are trying to persuade Trump not to fire William Barr. In fact, the report itself also mentioned that Barr and Trump's relationship had been deteriorating, and that one official said the two had barely spoken in recent months, as the president was frustrated by attorney generals not releasing any findings of Durham's investigation before the election and not taking more aggressive steps to back his claims of voter fraud. So basically, that witch hunt investigation by Durham turned out nothing, and yet Donald Trump's like, why didn't you go to the release it? Okay, and then also the voter fraud. Why did you backing me up on voter fraud? Because there's no evidence. There's no evidence of either of these things. Remember that Hunter Biden laptop turned out to be a complete and utter waste of time, a bust, another bust, just like, of course, the Clinton emails, right? Didn't prove any sort of wrongdoing, didn't prove any sort of, massive, law-breaking thing that you could throw somebody in prison for. Okay, none of this proved anything. They came out to be complete and utter nothing burgers. And yet, here you go. You've got Trump saying, why didn't you release it? It's under attack. Dude, shut up. He is the worst, whiniest little bitch loser I've ever seen. Ever, my God. Shut the fuck up. Donald Trump, as I keep saying, has absolutely no evidence to back him up. And I'm very surprised that, Barr is not going along with this. That Barr is actually standing up and saying, and not just going along with Donald Trump, because it's what he normally did. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall. That's it. Or maybe like destroying the democratic process is a little bit more than he bargained for. And so he's like, I'm not quite ready to do a fascist takeover of the United States. Just maybe sure, I'll cover for Donald Trump. I'll make sure he stays out of prison or doesn't get impeached or impeached and removed. But I'm not going to go as far as taking over the United States. I don't know. There's a line. I guess it's a good one. I mean, look, it's not as if it matters now if Barr gets fired. Okay. I mean, it would basically only be a firing for spite. So that's it. But at the same time, Donald Trump still has a lot of support from Republican voters and people in power. So that could hurt him as well. So I don't know. There is also another wrinkle here. If he does fire Barr, well, then William Barr, what does he know about Trump? What does he know that could affect him or affect him after the election? Good question. And if he is fired, would he speak up? Again, this is Donald Trump throwing a complete tantrum without thinking. Well, just without thinking, basically. And that's it. Questions. We'll see what happens. All right. Anyway. Okay. The rats are jumping ship. Absolutely. They are. All right. Moving on. Let's get one more story in here for you guys. Had it right with in fact. Yeah, I guess. For sure. Let's see. Adrian Benefield says the worst thing he said was voting was a privilege, not a right. Oh, voting is absolutely a right. So, yeah. I love how they're trying to take that, take voting away from people. Anyway. First daughter, Ivanka Trump, is having a bit of a sad. Apparently, she is not happy about being investigated. Having to go and do a deposition in a case that talks about the Trump family possibly conspiring to profit personally off Trump's inauguration. So now this is one of the many investigations that are going on with the Trump family. And so here's what she said on Twitter. This week, I spent 5+ hours in a deposition with the Democratic DC's AG officer, where they questioned the rates charged by the Trump Hotel at the inauguration. This inquiry is another politically motivated demonstration of vindictiveness and waste of taxpayer dollars. Privileged daughter is having a sad. Nice. Anyway, so now at issue here are the rates the Trump Hotel had charged. And of course, the fact that the president is not divested from these interests from the Trump organization, meaning he personally profits from this. So now she said that the rates for the Trump Hotel were set at fair market rates. Is that true? Survey says that's a lie. Of course. According to a report by the watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, the Trump Hotel charged almost 6 times the current average cost for most basic rooms available in the hotel and 8 times the current average cost for higher tiered rooms during the inauguration. Now, look, we know hotels, when there's an event going on, they tend to increase their rates, of course. But they increased it by 6 times. Jesus. That's a lot. So now, the other thing about this is her complaining that, I can't believe you would waste so much taxpayer money investigating me for my shady ass practices. Well, okay, she wasn't concerned whenever her daddy would, do the same thing, do his bullshit fishing expeditions or his personal golfing trips to his own resorts, and would charge money towards, or I should say from Secret Service. In fact, they would get charged on average hundreds of dollars a night, anywhere from $650 on, which again, that is paid for by taxpayers. And by the way, it's not even like a few rounds like other presidents have done. You remember back when Obama was president. Obama always golfing. Look at the golf trips. He's wasting so much taxpayer money going out golfing. He's always golfing. Okay, well, how many times did President Donald Trump golf in his first 4 years?
Tighten up my meat.
Well, 292 days of golf. And it came out to an estimated $142 million. So now let's compare it to Obama, right? Obama actually played 333 rounds of golf, but he did so in a total of 8 years and actually spent significantly less taxpayer money to do it. Huh. Weird. Yeah, you know, it's almost as if the Trump family loves wasting taxpayer money as long as they get some sort of benefit for it. It's weird. But of course, any money used to investigate your massive waste, well, then suddenly you care a whole lot about taxpayer money. Isn't that weird? A little odd, a little strange. That probe, by the way, also looked at whether or not the president had violated the emoluments clause, which prohibits, of course, the president from getting money from foreign governments. In fact, according to the findings, the D.C. Attorney General's office began in part after claims were leveled by former friend to Ivanka Trump, not Ivanka, but Melania Trump, Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, who also, by the way, is profiting very handily from book sales, or probably will. But here's the thing. I would be very surprised if they did not pocket a lot of cash from foreign governments as well as taxpayer money. Like, I would be very surprised. But look, they can't help themselves. This entire family is corrupt to the core, okay? Far beyond the normal, average Washington level corruption. But even with the Trumps, I guess it's go big or go home, including the corruption, especially when it comes to the corruption. Now, social media, not feeling her pain. In fact, here's some responses, and I love them. Quote, your entire existence is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Another person asks, so it's perfectly principled for your father to launch dozens of hollow lawsuits questioning the honesty of the election that he lost miserably, which are not paid for by the taxpayers, are actually paying for by the Republicans, by Republican donors. So the Trump campaign is soliciting all these donations. And by the way, these donations that they're getting from a lot of Republicans are actually not going to these lawsuits and not going to the $20,000 a day paid for by Rudy, or paid to keep Rudy Giuliani on as their lawyer, but like it's going to paying down his campaign debt and going to the RNC. So I don't even know where the money is coming from at this point. Okay. But nonetheless, it's certainly, hopefully not taxpayer money. That'd be even more ridiculous. But look, going back to the quote here, they said it's not legitimate to investigate your role in overpriced services by the hotel he should have relinquished the lease on. I mean, that's a good point. It's a really good point. All right, well, there's more. Brown-Eyed Susan says, whiny little baby, you stole the funds from children with cancer. Just shut up. Where's the lie? Totally agree. That's why, of course, in New York, the Trumps are no longer allowed to operate a charity. Because they steal. This family is the biggest bunch of grifters I've ever seen get into power. It's amazing. But as I said, go big or go home. Miss Betty Bowers says, hey, Grifter Barbie. I love that name. Using inauguration money to line your own pockets is bad, even at market rates, but lying about it under oath is even worse. And Michael Drake adds, self-dealing in the fair market rate is still self-dealing. I think by now we have already established the fact that Ivanka Trump is basically her dad. Now, she pretends to be smart. She pretends to be pretty. But really, she's dumb, vindictive, and just as whiny as he is. Sad. All right. Anyway, that was actually a quick show. So, thank you for joining me today. James Williams, with the incredibly kind $20, says, "Let Republicans have their civil war. They'll be the easiest enemy to identify. They won't stop wearing Chinese-made red caps or flying the flag of the last nation that challenged the U.S. to a civil war and then lost." Yeah, all good points. Now the problem is, again, I don't want things to come to violence, right? Like you know me, like I don't want that to happen. I think it'd be, just ridiculous. And here's the thing too, there's not enough of them. As I said before, they're a minority of a minority. They're extremely sad when you think about it. And so, I don't know. I just hope none of that happens. I don't look forward to, I don't want any sort of violence. But we're going to see what happens on January 20th, because at that point, they're going to have to accept the reality. I know there are trolls everywhere that are like, "Oh, you just wait and see what happens on January 20th when Trump gets sworn in for a second term." That's not going to happen. Biden won the election. All the studies and all the experts and all the results, all the recounts prove otherwise. It's over. It's over. And so they're going to have to, of course, accept that. And I'm pretty sure most will. But I don't know. I don't know how many won't. Scary. Very scary. All right. Thank you, Adrian Leap, for subscribing with Prime on Twitch. Much appreciated. All right. Let's see. That's all I got. Thank you, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Wet ass keyword.
Thailand.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Mike Pounds. Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.